Daniel, don't tire yourself. We have a long way to go.
But I'm bored.
Well, then pay attention. One day you'll be leading your family to the feast, and you'll need to know the way.
Father, how far is it to Jerusalem?
If we make good time, we should be there tomorrow night. If not, it will take us another day.
Halt in the name of Caesar!
Shalom.
Where are you traveling, Jews?
To the feast, sir. If it pleases you.
Well, today you have a detour. I'm traveling east, and I choose you to carry my pack.
Found this one hiding behind a rock. Amazing what lengths they'll go to avoid work.
But, Father, you said if we don't make good time, it will take us another day to reach Jerusalem.
Don't worry, son. We can take time to help these men.
Mother, I want to go with them. Little brother, it's up to you to protect the family while we're gone.
I hate the Romans. They're strong enough to carry their own packs, and yet they compel us to do it for them, just for the sport of it.
How far do we have to go, Father?
1 mile. The marker's right up here, and not a step further. That's as much as I will do, and that's what the law says.
Distance is not important, son. What matters is the condition of our heart as we carry out our duty.
I'd rather die than to help these Roman swine. I'll do just what I have to do, and no more. 1 mile, and that's it.
Anthony, you always seem to pick the weak ones.
I chose him to teach him a lesson. Never run from a Roman soldier.
Well, mine seems to be holding up. It's almost as if he enjoys it.
The mile marker is just ahead. Place the packs down here.
You're free to go.
Father, they said we could stop.
Hey, where are you going, Jew?
Daniel.
But Father...
Halt! I said you may go. Why are you still walking?
I can go farther,
The law only requires you to go 1 mile.
and that's what I've done, according to the law. But now I choose to go a 2nd mile,
But why?
because that's what I've been taught to do. My name is Joseph. This is my son, Daniel.
I'm Marcus.
Where do you call home?
Ethiopia.
Well, you are far from home. I'm sure you miss your family.
What is with you? You are a Jew and I am a Roman. Why do you speak to me with respect? Are you mocking me?
We follow the teachings of one who says we are to love all people, no matter the differences. He says to love your enemies and do good to those who hate you. So, even though you are a Roman and I a Jew, I serve you with love in my heart. It's what I've been taught.
Daniel, put down the pack.
What are you doing? Let the Jew carry the pack. Are you foolish?
Not anymore.
Good morning. Now, I don't know if you see the little emblem in the bottom corner there. What emblem does that represent to you when you see that? Oh, wow. You guys are good. That's a Chick-fil-A emblem. That actually is a video that they show that Chick-fil-A actually produced to talk about the second mile of service, the second mile of going the extra mile or the second mile of service. And how many of you like Chick-fil-A? What do you like about Chick-fil-A? The sandwiches. What kind of sandwiches? You like the hamburgers? You like the hot dogs? Which one do you like the best? Chicken sandwich. That's good because that's all they've got there, basically, isn't it? I mean, what else do you like about Chick-fil-A? The sauces, the milkshakes, the service. Does anybody? Let me tell you something. Chick-fil-A is one of the most consistent restaurants that I've ever been to in terms of the way the place looks. Have you ever gone to a Chick-fil-A and you've seen trash in the parking lot, or tables not cleaned off, or the counters not? I mean, everything just looks clean. It's like great. Have you ever gone there and had a person that's waiting on you? They'll say a phrase like, when you say, "Well, could I have some ketchup with that?" And then what are they going to say back to you? It's my pleasure. And they'll say, "How can I serve you?" Have you ever heard somebody at Chick-fil-A say, "How can I help you?" They usually say, "How can I serve you?" Somebody was telling me that they train you how to do that. Now, I'm not a big Chick-fil-A. I'm not going to advertise Chick-fil-A, but Chick-fil-A has been very successful at what they're doing. Now, I don't know about you. I like to be successful. Do you like to be successful? Well, wait a minute. You don't? Thomas, you just don't care about success at all. You just say, "What are you wearing a Georgia shirt for then, for goodness sake?" That's about success right there. I mean, I'm telling you, yeah. We'll even give it up for Florida. They won yesterday. So if you're an Auburn fan, you're still in mourning for the last 2 weeks. So, but I don't know about you, but I want to be successful. I want to be successful as a parent. I want to be successful in my marriage. I want to have a successful career. Might not should have chosen being a pastor if I'm going to do that as a career. I want to be successful with my finances. I want to have successful friendships. Some of you here, success may be for you is I want to have successful dating relationships, or maybe I want to have a successful college or high school career. We all want to experience some type of success, but when you combine all of these things together, what they really come up and what they really mean is that we all have some type of great expectations for our life. What kind of expectations do you have for your life? Are you wanting to be a better spouse? Are you wanting to be a better parent? Are you wanting to be a better son or daughter? Are you wanting to be a better friend? What are you wanting to do in this life? For me, I read something that recently where it said Dr. Charles Stanley, who's Andy Stanley's father, said success is about becoming the total person that God wants you to be and accomplishing the goals that He has set for your life. Now, I'm going to say that again. Success is becoming the total person that God wants you to be and accomplishing the goals that He has set for your life. See, if success is that, we use that as a definition, then what that means is that each and every one of us in this room have been created for a special purpose. You have your own purpose. You have your own purpose. We all have a special purpose. And if we've been created for that, then we've been designed by God to do that specific purpose. And we all have been designed to do something. Now, you may say, "Well, I'm no good. I can't do this." I'm telling you now, if you're in here and thinking that God can't use you, you're wrong. He created you with a purpose. And you are designed to do that purpose. And when you're not doing that purpose, you're going to feel off kilter. Now, I think the key to reaching our great expectations can be found in a conversation or a teaching that Jesus was doing in His day and time to a group of people. In your Bibles, it would be found in chapters 5, 6, and 7 of the book of Matthew. But all that is in those 3 chapters is a conversation that Jesus was having with his disciples, with those that were really close to him, trying to teach them about how to live their life. But now, because he was teaching and where he was, there was a huge crowd that sort of came up and overheard this conversation. Now, in this crowd was a variety of people. People from every walk of life. There was rich people, and they were poor people. There were good people, and they were bad people. They were white, and they were black, and they were different races and different thoughts of how to live life. There were some that were Jewish and worshiped God, or Yahweh as they would call him. And there were some that were following the Greek gods of Zeus and Apollo. And then there were some that were following the Roman gods. There were some that were following all kinds of things. They were people that were broken. They were people that had it all together. This crowd that was around him was as diverse as this room is right now. And Jesus was looking at them. And he was looking at them, and for the most part, all of those people that were in that area had something wrong. Some of them may have been sick or had troubles. Maybe they were physically going through some problems. Others may have had some emotional things that they were dealing with. Most of them most all of them were being persecuted in some way or another, either by life or the Roman government at that time. So this huge group of people, some were considered outcasts in their society. Now, I'm not sure what you would call outcasts in our society. Most of us in this room do not consider ourselves outcasts. But in that society, there was people who, if you talked or walked a certain way, people would not have anything to do with you. If you got sick or got some type of problems with you health-wise, you were considered unclean. So there was all kinds of brokenness in this particular area of where Jesus was having this conversation with his disciples. So I don't know if you can relate to any of those things, but right now, when I talk to you, I want you to think from their perspective. So Jesus comes up. Now, I'm a speaker, and I've been doing this for a while, and one of the things that I know that if you can do is if you can use something in the congregation or in the people you're speaking to and use that to pull them into the message, they're more engaging. Talk about a Georgia shirt, talk about a Florida shirt, you sort of pull in. You know, we all sort of pulling in there like that. So Jesus begins this conversation by saying something along the lines of, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, because theirs is the kingdom of heaven." So he starts out talking about blessed are the poor in spirit. So he's talking about people who are struggling with their spiritual life, struggling with just who they are and what God's calling them to be. He goes on to say, "Blessed are those that mourn, because for they'll be comforted." So everything, he just kept going on, one right after the other. He called out a huge number of things. He said, "Blessed are the ones who are being persecuted, who are being pushed down by the people or the world around you, because you still have a purpose." He's trying to connect with them, and in a way that he's connected to them, he's wanting to tell them, God has a purpose for you, and you're designed to do that purpose, and you need to do that. And then he goes on to say, he says, "You are the salt of the earth." And he says, "But if a salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." So in other words, he's saying, I don't know what your purpose is, me personally. And Jesus was saying to them, I'm just going to give you an illustration. You're salt. Now, everyone in that context of that conversation that he was in would have known what salt is. When I say the word salt, you understand what salt is, right? You understand what salt can do when you taste it. It enhances food, doesn't it? For some of you really want to enhance it, like my wife. I mean, I was just shaking it. Is that coming out? Yeah, I'm like, baby, it's been coming out the whole time you're shaking it. I mean, but some of you like that. Some of you, how many of you salt your food before you even taste it? Because you just don't, look, she's put her head down and raised her hand up. She's like, I don't trust it. I want salt on that. When you use salt, he's like, you're salt. And he's telling this to broken people. You got a purpose. Jesus is looking at this group of people who the world has said, you can't add value And he's saying you can add value, just like salt adds value. You've got a purpose. And then he goes on to say, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So he goes on to say, not only do you have a purpose, but that you were designed for, that you can do. He's like, you need to live out that purpose in the presence of others. You don't need to do it in a closet somewhere. You don't need to hide it. You need to live that out in front of others. And when you live that purpose out that God has called you to do, or you to be, and you live it out in front of everybody else, you're basically like a light in the dark. Now, I don't know about you, but one candle in a dark room makes a huge difference. Just a little bit of light, just a little bit of LED light in a dark room makes a difference. Don't believe me? How many of you ever pulled your cell phone out and hold it up to try to find something in the dark? Pull that cell phone out and you're like holding it up like, I can't see. Then you try just a little bit of light makes a difference. Jesus went on after he told them that. He says, let me remind you of a couple things. He's like, now I didn't come here to do away with everything you've been told. I know you've got the law and the prophets, what we would call today the Old Testament. He says, I know you've been told stuff from way a long time ago about the things that you should do and how to be a good person and all that. But he says, I'm telling you there's more to that. He says, I didn't come away to do away with everything you've been taught. In fact, I've come to help you live it out to its fullest. He says, because until we live this out to its fullest, he said, heaven and earth. He says something along the lines of, he says, until everything is fulfilled in the law and the prophet, everything's fulfilled and lived out, none of this is going to happen until the end of time. I mean, the end of time won't come till that all happens. He goes on to say stuff like, you know, you've heard, and I'm just imagine Jesus just having a conversation with you. Just imagine all the stuff that you have heard all your life about what it means to be good and what it means to do the right things. And Jesus said, you know, in those 10 commandments, it says, you shouldn't murder. And everybody goes, yeah, that's what it says. We taught that as a little child. And he's like, but I'm going to tell you something. If you've looked at someone with anger in your heart, you really are just as bad as somebody that did the murder because it's inside of you. And he says, you read in the Old Testament where it says, thou shalt not, or don't commit adultery. So don't commit adultery. They all knew what that was. And he says, but I'm telling you this, if you're a guy and you look at a girl with lust in your eyes, then you're just as bad as somebody who's committed adultery. Now, all of this was blowing their mind. He kept going on. He talked about all of these things that all of their life they've been told, this is the way you're supposed to live. This is how you're supposed to do it. And all their life they've been told this, and Jesus going, no, it's a little bit more than that. That's a great start. It's a great place to begin. But he said, I'm here to help you take it to the next level. Now turn to your neighbor and tell them, I'm ready to go to the next level. Yeah, see, some of you didn't tell that, didn't? Some of them didn't say that because it's like, I don't know if I want to go to the next level. What's the next level going to be like? Because I'm having problems at that first level right there. You know, Mark Twain said this one time about the Bible. He says, I have no problem with those parts of the Bible I don't understand. But it's those parts of the Bible I do understand, they give me a fit. See, that's the way most of us are. If we don't understand it, it don't bother us. But when we start to understand it, we start to comprehend it, we start to live it, things change. Chick-fil-A and the Cathy family decided to live out a biblical principle. It's a biblical principle that's found in the middle of this conversation that Jesus is having with this group of people that I just began with you. It's called the second mile of service. In this part, Jesus was going through, remember I told you, he said, you've heard about this, but I tell you this. Here's a part that Jesus said, and Chick-fil-A and the Cathy family took this and said, we're going to make our business revolve around this principle. Here's where it is. Matthew 5, verses 38 through 48 says, Jesus said, you have heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Now, I'm just going to pause just a minute. What he was saying there was, you've heard if somebody treats you good, treat them good. But if somebody treats you bad, it's in your rights to give it back to them. They take an eye from you, you take an eye from them. They take a tooth from you. Don't know what they'd do if either one of those things, an eye or a tooth, but you take a tooth from them. I don't know who would want to take a tooth from somebody and say, you took my tooth, I want your tooth. That sounds stupid. But that's how they were interpreting the law. You ran over my dog, and my dog's dead, I'm running over your dog. You run over my cat, which you ought to run over 3 or 4 cats, and then I'm teasing, cats are good, cats are good. There's a place in this world for cats somewhere. I don't know where it's at. But that's not in the Atkinson household. I'm just telling you it's not in Atkinson. Now, I'm telling you, the dogs, they can come hang out at our place, but not cats. Nor snakes. We just got rid of those too, so. He says, you've heard it said that an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, don't resist an evil person. Now, let me tell you something. That's got to be hard to hear. Because they consider the people. See, to us today, it's like the government made the laws. You got to live by them. It's like, I don't want to. I don't like living by them. I don't like how they're doing things. I don't like how they're treating me. I don't like taxes, so I'm not going to pay them. Yeah, try that. See how long that worked. You did. Yeah, you did. It doesn't come out good, does it? They find out. It's something amazing about documents and stuff. He says, but I tell you, don't resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, pow, turn them off from the other cheek. That's so contrary to what they've been told. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. What? Now I don't have a shirt or a coat. He says, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. And give to the one who asks. And do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. Now listen here, I'm giving you a key. This is almost like the Da Vinci Code. You know, there's keys and codes and things. No, they're really not. But I'm just telling you, I want you to think like this. He says, you've heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. All their life they've been told, love those who love you. And it's okay to hate those who hate you. They're your enemy. Jesus comes here and explaining this and teaching them. And remember, this is God's only Son, who was there at the beginning when all creation was made. He's explaining this to them. He's like, I know that this is what you've heard. I know that this is what you've been practicing. He says, but I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. What? Pray for those who's making my life hard? Love those who's causing me to have struggles? What? I don't understand this concept. He says, when you do this, you'll be called children of your Father in heaven. Because understand this, he said, he causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. He says, if you love those who love you, what reward are you going to get? He says, don't even the tax collectors, aren't they doing that? And he says, if you greet only the people who greet you, you aren't even doing anything more than any others are. He says, don't even the pagans do that? He says, don't even the people who follow false gods do these same things? So don't think you're doing something exceptional. He says, be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. So he almost insinuates that this being perfect is about going the extra mile, going the second mile. There's a guy named Dr. Bill Bright who wrote a book that was called Living the Second Mile for Life. And he talked about 3 different levels of humanity. In the first level of humanity, he called it the hellish level. The hellish level was the level where if somebody did something good to them, they would still do bad back. I want you to think about in the course of your life. Think about the times that you've done good for people. In those times of you doing good for people, has there ever been somebody else who still repaid you with evil? Maybe you forgave somebody, and once you forgave them, they still treated you badly. Maybe you forgave them of a debt, or you cut them some slack, and you treated them good, and they still cut the legs out from under your feet by their conversation and gossip about you. He said that's the hellish level. And there's people, a small percentage of people who return good with evil. Then he said there's a human level. And the human level, he said, is where most of the people fall in the world today. The human level says, you do something good for me, I do something good for you. You do something bad to me, I'm doing something bad to you. See, we put these strings in your bulletin. The human level, I think, is, have you ever heard no strings attached? You ever heard that phrase, no strings attached? I did something and there's no strings attached. What does no strings attached mean? No strings attached. I mean, yeah, but I mean, what is it? Yes, Ezra. You're not wanting to get something back. You're not expecting to get something back. That's a great, give him a round of applause. That's awesome. So no strings attached means I'm doing something and I'm not expecting something in return. But I'm going to tell you that most people at this human level, we do stuff and there's a string attached. And that string might only be this long. But for some of us, that string is very long. We do something nice for somebody and we go, oh, it's no problem, it's all good. And then they go on off and that string just keeps reeling on out. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm expecting something in return. And you go, snatch. And that string draws tight. And that person, months or weeks later, and they're like, and then you bring it up in a conversation. I did this for them and look how they're treating me. And maybe you didn't say it to them, but maybe you said it to somebody in your friends. Well, look what I did for him. 6 months ago, he was so bad and I did this, and look at how he's treating me now. Or how she has done me or spoke about me. See, some of us, we keep saying the phrase, no strings attached. We just got long strings attached. Then this guy speaks about in his book, he says, then there's the heavenly level. And he said, that's the people who return good for evil. The second mile is about returning good for evil. The second mile is going over and above. See, the first mile, and this is your first fill in the blank. Your first mile, it all comes from our head. It's all about what everybody expects. What the world is expecting us to give in helping others or serving others. There's certain things you expect. You go to a restaurant and you go to the bathroom, you're expecting paper towels and toilet paper and soap. Are you not? You go to Chick-fil-A, and they got mouthwash and those things. I'm like, who puts mouthwash in a bathroom? But I'm like, that's pretty cool. First mile, everybody expects. It's the part that's coming from the head. It's the expected mile. It's what everyone anticipates. You go anywhere, all of you have been brought up in the United States. I don't care what culture you are or where you've done, but I believe this transcends cultures. I don't care if it's in another country. Emmanuel's here, so I have some Chinese friends that are here. I think our parents teach us, be nice. Be polite. I don't care what culture you come from, I think that all parents teach their child to say, thank you. Yes, sir. No. Is those things that we teach? It's expected. It's already anticipated. I mean, it's already expected. Going the first mile, that mile's heavily traveled. Because everybody's been taught that. Everybody's been taught the 10 Commandments or some portion of the 10 Commandments. Don't kill. Okay, that makes sense. Don't steal. That makes sense. Honor your parents. That makes sense. Love God. That makes sense. That's the first mile. Jesus teaches we got to go the second mile. See, the first mile is unseen. Because everybody's expecting it to be done. We don't even notice it. We don't even notice. We notice when it's not there. Let there not be toilet paper at a restaurant. You'll notice that. Let there not be soap or paper towels or something. You notice that. What happens when you go to church? What's people expect when they come to church? Toilet paper and food. They expect you to be nice. They don't expect you to, if you go to church and people's noses are turned up so far that they would drown if it rained. You understand what I'm talking about? I'm so much better than you because I'm here and it rained. You understand? I mean, they're not expecting that. They expect you to be nice. Smile at them. Hey, how you doing? But what's the second mile look like? See, the second mile comes from the heart. The second mile of service comes from the heart. That is the want to mile. I don't do this because I have to. I do this because I want to. This isn't about what the rules say. This is about how I interpret the rules. In the video we watched earlier, the Roman asked him, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" And he says, "I have been taught." Well, we follow the teachings of someone else. Or the teaching that said we're to go the second mile. To not just love those who love us, but to love our enemies, even if we don't agree with them. To make a difference. See, the second mile of service. Shake the word service out. The second mile of love. The second mile of caring. The second mile of hope. All of that is unexpected. I didn't expect that. I didn't see that coming. I can tell you this, at the second mile, there ain't many people on that road. There's not many people on the second mile doing that. Because they're just like the first guy. I'm going to do what they expect and no more. It's the mile of visibility. It's the mile of visible love. When you do things and you serve others with love and you go the extra mile, you take the extra steps. You don't just say, "Hey, how you're doing? Welcome to church." You don't just say, "Hey, my name is Dorsey, how are you doing?" Tell me a little bit about yourself. You engage people in a conversation. See, many of us are walking through life and we keep wondering, why doesn't God give me an opportunity to make a difference in this life? He's made me salt. He's created me for a purpose. Why don't I do this? Where is my opportunity? And every day, we meet people. And then, have you ever been into a party or something? This is a visual thing that comes into my mind as I'm speaking this now, so I may mess up in saying it. Have you ever been to a party and you're sitting there talking with somebody, and while they're talking with you, they're looking past you to somebody else? How does that make you feel? It makes you feel awful. You can't even give me your time. It's like they're looking right through you to see who else they can talk to that might be more important. Jesus is sitting here describing in this culture to this group of people, I see you. I see your brokenness. And I see your hurt. I see your struggles. I see your trials and all this. I feel your heartbreak and your hurt. I see all of that. And you still have a purpose. See, because in this second mile, that's where transformation happens. Chick-fil-A has transformed the fast food industry. I don't care what anybody says. The fast food industry has been changed. People's expectations have increased. See, when you love through awkward, when you love those who don't even deserve to be loved, when you serve those with the same love as you do with somebody who's done you something very good, no strings attached, I'm not looking for anything in return, you begin to be light in a dark world. Because see, the second mile should come with no strings attached. See, going the second mile is not just something we do. It's something that we live. So this morning I want to ask you, what's your second mile? What's the thing that God's calling you to step out and serve someone else? Maybe it's somebody in your family. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's your spouse that God's saying you need to go the second mile. You need to serve them with love. Yeah, they've ticked you off. Yeah, they've done things, because I promise you in my household I do it all the time, the ticking off part. If Jody didn't have the second mile with me, maybe it's to be that friend that goes the second mile. We were talking between the services, and a friend of mine told me about it. He said, we were talking about, well, what's an example of the second mile? A couple years ago, I was driving down the road and coming back from a softball game or a tournament or something, and my daughter and wife had stayed there, and me and another guy were driving back. We're coming up the interstate, and at approximately 80 miles an hour, depending on if the lawyers are here in town, but on the interstate, we hit a deer. The airbags didn't deploy, but at 70, 80 miles an hour, I hit a deer at like 1 o'clock at night. And I'm way down on the other side of Metter. My wife is all the way over in Warner Robins or somewhere over there, or Perry. She's in Perry. And I'm sitting there, and the guy, his wife was over there. Our children were over there. It was like, well, who do we call? And I called my friend. It's Chris. He's back there doing the camera now. I called him. I said, Chris, I'm on the side of the road, and I don't have anywhere to go, and I don't know what to do. Chris got up. It was on a Saturday night, 12 o'clock, 12:30. We preach on the next day. Chris got up and drove that 40-minute one-way drive, picked me and my friend up, and drove us home. Now, he could have told me all kinds of things. He could have said, well, I'll call somebody. I'll get you some help. But he went out of his way to do the second mile, or to be the second mile for me. Who are you going to be the second mile for? Because that was the light in the darkness I needed to see. What's God calling you to be the second mile? Remember this, you are the salt. So be salty. If you'd like to have prayer, there's people that be back at the back that you can go back and they'll pray with you. If you'd like to have some prayer with you, somebody to pray with you. But during this last song, I want you to reflect on what God is calling you to be in this world today and how you can make that difference.